So next up, we're going to look at live shapes and corners. And this technique is only available in the CC releases of Illustrator, so the most recent ones. But even if you are on an older version, I would still recommend that you watch this video just to really get a sense of what is possible, because even if you don't have it right now, someday you will. So live shapes, in my opinion, are the main reason that I'll never go back to CS6. They provide so much control, a lot of speed, and they really save me multiple trips to the pen tool. So live shapes are exactly what they sound like. They're shapes that are interactive, adjustable, and can easily be changed on the fly. To best explain live shapes, I could demonstrate one with the rectangle tool. So if I just drew out just a shape like this, you'll see the circular widgets here on each corner. And if you've used CC so far, you would have seen these, and I'm sure you know that pulling them in is going to round the corners of the shape, and pulling them back out is going to make them just sharper again. So this is something that you could have done in previous versions of Illustrator, so CS6 and earlier, but you would have had to go to Effect, Stylize, Round Corners. And here you could have put in a manual value, so like 80 pixels, and I'll round all the corners by 80 pixels. So that could be done, but what makes this so great now is that you couldn't really do an individual corner before. If you wanted to round just one corner, you had to do a really strange workaround, and it just wasn't too fun. But now you can just use the direct selection tool. So this white arrow here, and you can just click on any of the corner and round that individually. So that alone gives you tons more freedom. But what you can also do with live shapes is if you open up the transform window, you get some extra rectangle properties here. So this, once again, you can change the corner radius by a specific amount. You can do it, make one corner more than another. And you can also change the actual type of corner. So you have rounded corners, you have inverted round, so they look like that. And then you have the chamfered corners as well, like this. So just in these options, you have a lot of freedom to play around with this rectangle. You can also use the Ellipse tool and get, once again, another set of properties. In addition to things just like the size, you can create little wedge shapes to take out of the circle. So if you just grabbed this little widget right here, you can actually drag this out and create these kind of like pie graph looking pieces. And you can manually put in the values of those angles if you really like to. You can do that here. So if I wanted the pie to start at 20 degrees on the circle and end at 140 degrees, it would give me that exact shape. And what's also quite handy is that I could duplicate it and use this invert pie button to create the reverse, which can be quite helpful. Where I find this feature to be particularly useful is that it's not through just the ellipse tool, the polygon tool, the rectangle tool that you get these live corner options, but pretty much any shape that you create, whether it's with the pen tool or the Pathfinder tool or something else, can have these live effects, which in result you can create a lot of complex and but still smooth looking forms. A very quick example would be that if I want to make a nice looking like peanut shape, I find it's a shape that I like to make a lot. I'll take two ellipses and just unite them like this. And then rather than go through the trouble of taking the pen tool and trying to curve out this side right here, I'll just use the direct selection tool and just round out these corners and get something that looks like that. So that's something that once upon a time was, I wouldn't say like super hard, but it took a lot more time than I've just put into it now. And these are the kind of things that are quite handy to know. So I think a great example of this being used is in this piece that I've done here. So you can look at these kind of decaying runes right here. And it looks very detailed, but it looks quite smooth. And this really all it was a bunch of shapes that I united and then started to go in with the live corners and round out. So if I were to show you really quickly, maybe how I would do like a top piece like this is I would just create a bunch of rectangles like this maybe. Once again, it's a very quick demonstration, but maybe just create something like that, and then I would unite them, and then I would go through with the direct selection tool and just round these out and get it to a point that I quite like it. Again, this is something that is so time saving, and it really does end up looking a lot better than if you tried to get the pen tool and manually draw out these curves. You'd probably have to use like the grid or something like that to really plan it out to get it to look perfect. But even just quickly like that, you can see that I've made a shape that's similar to these ruins. So again, quick, time saving, and I didn't even have to touch the pen tool.